Good evening. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Elections 2024. My name is Faraz Patel. Of course, this is a show we will be bringing you every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday in the lead up to the May 29 polls. We'll be previewing different political parties, civil society, political analysts, think tanks, and so many more other individuals who will have their say, of course, ahead of this year's elections. Now, today, our political party is the United Independent Movement. It was founded by Neil de Beer, who is, of course, the former National Security Advisor to Nelson Mandela and a former Umkhonto we Sizwe operative. And I must say, he was that former National Security Advisor to the former president. Now, the party registered in the 2021 South African municipal and local government elections, and they contested in 8 metros and 1,000 wards, with Mr. de Beer as a candidate for the mayor of Cape Town. Now, the UIM won 3 metro seats in the 2021 local government elections. Now, they're aiming even higher, and of course, they're looking to contest provincially and nationally. And we'd like to welcome Mr. Neil de Beer via Zoom here on Elections 2024 on Hilaal TV. Mr. de Beer, good day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Salam. Good to be with you and to all your great viewers. It's a privilege being here, and I look forward to the debate.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Walaikum salam to you also, Mr. de Beer. Mr. de Beer, you, of course, could have decided to retire. You could have put your legs up, enjoy time with your family, but you've decided to join politics. You've decided to take that step. And politics is not a new thing to you. Of course, you were there as an Umkhonto we Sizwe member. You served as a National Security Advisor to the late, great Nelson Mandela. So you know politics too well. Why the return to it, Mr. de Beer?
Yeah, just to correct, I was a National Security Advisor in the era of the president. There were obviously more than one National Security Advisor, but yeah, it was a privilege to serve in that era and to be a member of the struggle, not just to sitting back, but getting up. Yeah, you're right, Farad. I had the choice to go on with my business life, my global vested businesses in the world where I was. But I came back to this country 3 years ago, and I found this country broken. I found a nation that really, really lost that dream, that hope, which we fought for, all of us. The Rainbow Nation was absolutely broken. I could have sat back, but I won't. So here we are, back in the fight, so that we can agree that whatever we wanted to build in 94, that in 24, we can return back to that compass and become that nation again.
Mr. de Beer, where did we go wrong as a country? Of course, 1994 comes as a sense of euphoria. I know I'd like to use the sporting terms, and, you know, as proud South Africans, you know, we were there seeing the Springboks lift the 1995 Rugby World Cup. You know, us winning the 1996 Africa Cup of Nations, our Olympians doing well in the athletics. But there was one part of sport. There was the constitution that was being designed in 1996. And all of us are getting excited. We fast forward 28 years later, of course, from 96. And we find a nation, as you say, broken on so many occasions. A lack of infrastructure, a lack of service delivery. So many things that are going wrong amongst the rights. It's the nation that Nelson Mandela was proud of, but, you know, if he had to look now, he'd look at a nation and probably weep and be sad about. Is that one way of describing it? Is that a way of describing just how much this nation has regressed from that euphoria that we had maybe, 30 years ago?
I think it's a combination of 3 main factors. One, the African National Congress could not, in 30 years, make the transition from a liberation movement to a fully fledged government. They can't. It's not possible. They seem not being able to do so. Secondly, greed. Greed, power, and the human factor of wanting to have more has come in. And thirdly, I think one of the biggest factors is that we have lost the direction of a moral compass in this country. We have lost direction of hope. We are now more divided according to race than before for. And it seems that this ANC of today, not the past, are not capable to get up. And I'm not surprised having a leader like this one, like this Cyril, who, in my opinion, lacks the courage, the moral standing, and that I have called on many ways a coward. And that's it. We have no leadership.
Mr. De Beer, there is, of course, alternatives to the ANC for our voters, and your party is one of them, the United Independent Movement. What does the United Independent Movement bring as an alternative to South Africans when they do head off to the polls?
I think I kept it simple. I'm a person that keeps things simple. I don't want things complicated. I want to get to a point. So here's it. It's 5 points. That's it. We call it the 5C principle. And that's it. There are many more. But I have decided that the functionality of the UIM will be 5 Cs, if I may. 1, crime. We have to now get up and admit that we are actually at a state of domestic warfare in this country. 84 people die a day of murder. That is more than certain areas in the world that are declared in a state of war. So we cannot continue. We cannot have this Beki Tafeltjie Stoeltjie Cele. He is incompetent. He must be removed. And then we need to readdress the whole system of policing in this country from the top right to the bottom. So crime, we must fight it. Zero tolerance. Number 2, we must protect and defend the constitution of this country. In other words, the rule of law. But we need to revisit it. Absolutely. Thirdly, we cannot allow corruption to continue. Corruption is, by the way, not corruption. It's theft. Hulle is 'n dief. Hulle het gesteel. So we must stop saying it's corruption. It's a crime. And we must lock them up, all of them. And it's listed in the Zondo Commission. Fourthly, capital must come back, sir. The capital comes in the top and 80% absolutely vanishes through stealing, looting, incompetence. And the people at the bottom, they get so much. And lastly, it's time that we bring our faith. We call it a Christian. I'm a Christian. I love my God. But we absolutely respect the Islamic faith, our Muslim community, our Hare Krishna, our Jewish faith. Anybody cannot sit there and tell me that in every one of those religions, there's one common denominatory, and they talk of light. This country needs to go back to the light, including ESCOM, and face the dark. And if we do that, we focus on that and unite, we'll make it. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I have to agree with you with regards to the religion. I think that's the one thing, whether we are Islam, Muslim, Jew, or Christian, I think we follow, that the moral compass of having that faith with us. Mr. De Beer, you speak of ESCOM. I don't know, maybe you'll be able to shed more light with this, but I remember it's the late 90s. The think tanks of ESCOM approach government and say, look here, supply is going to be more than demand. We need something to happen. Nothing happens. We are where we are right now. Knee-jerk reaction. Kusile Madupi gets built. It's still not enough to sustain the country. We are moving. It's over a month now of no load shedding. But there is the big question mark. What happens post May 29th? What do we do with ESCOM? Because this is not going to be a short-term fix right now.
Yeah, I think they're going to switch us 1 June. I think everybody knows, everybody is saying, I think 1 June, but anyway, we hope, inshallah, that doesn't happen.
Yes.
And I will do a lot of dua so that doesn't happen. But let's face reality for us. Number 1, imagine you give one guy a job and the only job he has is to bring power. So can you imagine you give one guy the power to switch back the power, to supply us power, and they ridiculously fail. So I think when he declared, this is now Suki Cyril, that he was going to appoint a minister of electricity, I think all of us went, what's next? Minister of pothole, minister of sidewalk. We can't continue appointing ministers. And then there's no actual relief. So I'm telling you, to change ESCOM three ways. That's it. One, bring specialists back. Bring an electrical engineer. Bring the retired people that used to build ESCOM, no matter what, and then get them back to put on the power. Secondly, read Andre de Ruyter's book for us. Just read it. It's there. He tells us what to do. And lastly, we cannot just, at this moment in time, look that we are comfortable with fossil fuel burning. We are currently keeping the lights on because we're burning diesel. Now, the future must be widened. And yes, if we have to look at nuclear, if we have to look at power that comes from hydroelectricity, if we have to look at wind power and solutions of one thing Africa has, and that's the glorious sun. But we cannot sit back and think that 62 million people are just going to wait for a plug. We have to solve that problem, and privatization and giving other entities a competitive edge to also supply power to the grid, that's the answer, in my opinion.
Mr. De Beer, you said you keep things simple, criminal justice system. We've heard the NPA and the Hawks saying that, look here, budgets are tight because we can't go ahead and implement the recommendations of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. What does the UIM say? Should it be in power in strengthening the NPA Hawks? And the question of scorpions, is that something that you would bring back, Mr. De Beer?
I'm going to be very controversial now.
Yeah. Yes, well, this is the platform
I've had the absolute, and I'm known for that.
Yes.
Go to Dubai. Go to Saudi. I've had the privilege, the pleasure to stay, live, work in that area. Now, you've got to not take my words out of context. Why is there minimum crime there? I'll tell you why. There's a law there. There's no negotiation of law. If you actually contravene the law there, you get punished severely. I went there. I will never forget. I walked past a Ferrari in Dubai Mall that was on, and no one was in it. And I looked at this car, and the guy said, no, the owner of this car left this Ferrari running because he doesn't want to come back to a hot car. But can you imagine you leave a Ferrari in South Africa outside Sandton Mall?
Yes.
Now, that is the difference between, and I'm not calling that we all should have that kind of justice. But in this country, crime pays for us. In this country, you get away with it. In this country, there's no punitive justice that says to the person who is about to commit it, you're going to pay. Now, we've got to review the justice system. We've got to bring back the actual scenario where if you do the crime, not only do you do the time, but you get hard labor, because you cannot allow people, for us, to think that they can get away with it and actually society will allow it.
Yes.
Scorpions, whatever you want to call them, scorpions, warthogs, arende, valke, slange, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you give that people the capability to enforce the law, but not when they do it and they do it too well. Now you want to shut and scrap them. We must get back to the old system, and here it is. You will remember when that yellow van in the past used to come around the corner. You know that even if you weren't wrong, you apologized. There was respect for the police. There was respect for law and order. And that is under a UIM government, the fact that we will go back. We called our campaign jobs and justice. And that's what we need to bring back.
After the break, I continue my conversation with Mr. Neil De Beer. We're going to be talking coalition politics and, of course, how this is going to shape potentially nationally and provincially. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to Elections 2024. My name is Faraz Patel. I'm in conversation with Neil De Beer, who is the leader of the United Independent Movement. Mr. De Beer, this year's elections is going to be quite special because when we look at, of course, different pollings, surveys that are happening across South Africa, it shows clearly that the ruling ANC is going to dip below the 50% mark. How do you see coalition politics playing out? And of course, what's the UIM's position when, of course, certain political parties come and you are the kingmaker and you have to make that decision in terms of governing, whether it's provincially or, dare I say, nationally?
Whereas I think three things we've got to realize is that without a doubt, if not this year, then the next, coalition politics is coming. It is a natural development after you actually go through 80 or 100 years of pre-apartheid one-party state, and 30 years after 94, again another singular party state that rules. It's a natural thing that now democracy is entering. And that sign of democracy is actually the fact that 52 or 53 parties will now be on a ballot, that coalitions and power sharing is being looked at. I get it. We have not been very good at doing the perfect solution on the, call it, municipal coalition structures. It's not been very good. It's not been successful. It's a learning curve. So I say we've got to prepare ourselves that coalitions are going to be formed. I'm not part of one, but I am part of a multi-party charter which says that if those 11 parties get 50+1 in the election, they are without a doubt going to go into a coalition. The interesting thing is, in this country, whom, if we don't get an overall majority on any side, those three factions, I'd like to tell you who they are, if not one of those three groupings get 50+1, then we are going to ask who's going to talk to who. So it's going to be an interesting ride. And I said yesterday, it's not who is going to talk to who. They're already talking to each other. Trust me.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you see the newspaper reports, you've got the deputy president who could be speaking to the EFF or the likes of the MK party. And you've got President Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of the Republic of South Africa, saying, well, we could maybe look at the DA. These are, of course, newspaper reports, speculations. We'll see when post-May 29 happens. Mr. Tipi, of course, your party is quite a new party. It's entering its first national elections and provincial ones. We've seen many other new parties come into the frame. How important are these new parties going to be? And what impact, realistically, are you looking at from a UIM perspective?
I think we are clear. As you know, I'm a realist. I say it as it is. I think I'm refreshing because I say it like it is, and I'm not intimidated by anybody. This country has got more potential than what we ever can think, but we need to unite. Here's the fact. Here's the story. We are maybe a small party, but you will remember that even the Springboks were one with +1. So 1% means a hell of a lot in a coalition. It means a hell of a lot when you are getting bigger, when you are rising. And here's the fact, which I will tell you straightforward now. We are not under any illusion that we are going to govern, that we are going to get the votes. We are not. But I can tell you what we've decided at the UIM. And this is important for your viewers. We have decided that the UIM will be the party that will keep everyone in Parliament accountable. Everyone. I'm listing every promise that every party is making currently. I have a total unit that looks at social media, that looks at the promises that these so-called bigger parties are making. And hear me well, on the 1st of June, when we go into Parliament, because the UIM will be there, we'll get enough backing. In Afrikaans, ons gaan vir hulle moer. You've got to hear me well. We are going to keep them accountable. And if they are going to think they're going to get away with it, you've met your match. And that is what I offer the people of this country. In Parliament, they are not going to get away with it.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the accountability because I think that's the one thing the citizens are asking for. They're asking for a sense of accountability, something maybe the leadership within this country has not really provided. And I'm talking not just nationally, I'm talking within the provinces also. There hasn't been that leadership that has come to the fore and really been accountable to the people. Now, Mr. Tipi, of course, being the UIM, of course, being a party that may not win a lot of seats, whether it's nationally or in the legislature, but how do you balance that out of trying to hold accountability as a political party, as a leadership structure within the country?
You don't need 50 seats to keep people accountable. What you need is you need a voice. And the more confident, the more non-cowardly a leader is and a person is, the fact that you don't fear but your God will make the difference where I enter parliament. And no matter if we get 1, 2, obviously we're hoping for 5 seats as a realistic progress, but we'll take what we get. But I want to guarantee you, in the past 3 years, as the UIM grew nationally, there's one thing the people have always said about the UIM. You keep to your word, you speak the truth even if it hurts, but you are willing to take the people on. And that's what we need in this country. So I don't need 50 seats. I just need my voice, the help of God, of our God, and the might of light. And I'll show you what we can do, what 1, 2, 5 seats can do, because it's about the people. It's about respecting our people, and that we need to stand up for them and not lose the fact for us that it's not about you. It is about the people that elect you.
Yeah. Mr. Dabia, Hilaal TV, of course, our channel is predominantly an Islamic channel, so we cater for the Muslim community within South Africa, but we also have non-Muslim of our compatriots that watch the station. But your message to the Muslim voter, because you've mentioned, of course, you've associated with a lot of Muslims, whether it was during apartheid and even post-apartheid. So just your message to the Muslim voter that is watching this channel, and why the UIM should be the party they should put their tick by.
Yeah, Farah, shukran for the opportunity. I think everybody knows I might be a person that is a Christian, but I love and am in love always with the Muslim community. I understand. I've read the Quran. I got one in English, and I fell in love. There's one thing, if I may, that always reminds me within the Quran where it says, if every neighbor helped a neighbor, no one would need help. So that's my message. My message to our voters out there within the Muslim fraternity is it's time that we put our religious bias aside, that we forget about race, that we forget about what divides us. It's time that we get back to the principles where we can bring back unity. And the united independent movement is colorblind. It's racial blind. It respects its faith as number one. So if you vote for me, if you vote for the UIM, that is what you will get. No fear, no favor. We'll stick to that compass, but let us get in to get you out. And that's my message.
Mr. Dabia, unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us here on Elections 2204 on Hilaal TV, and all the best ahead of the elections.
Inshallah. Thank you very much.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. That's Neil Dabia. He is the United Independent Movement leader. Well, that's all we have for you here on Elections 2024. From myself, Ross Patel, and the rest of the team in Johannesburg, we'll have more for you next week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Do have yourself a good weekend. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.